You are now listening to the Bluprint Pod. Get ready for another exciting episode, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to another special and hopefully educational and valuable episode of the Bluprint Pod. I am your host, Ray Roots, and today I am all by myself as my boy, the co-founder of the Bluprint and my visuals, Muhammad Imam, aka and my visuals, is dealing with the Rona. So today you'll be getting more of me. And like I said last week, as long as we are able, we will do our best to provide some sort of educational content. And it seems as if we are able because I'm here. So we're going to drop another episode. Now, I don't think that sounds like a bad deal because Ray Roots himself, and I'm going to address myself in third person, Ray Roots himself is here to talk about an important topic for every person on every level of business. So it's something that relates to a lot of people and something that people on every level in the business world can use and implement in their own lives to improve their businesses. But we'll get to that in a second. Before we move on, I wanted to quickly look back on the past almost 2 months and just recap what I think is a great starting point for us at the Bluprint. So first, we launched the YouTube channel on December 1st, where we actually uploaded consistently every week since. And actually, we upload twice a week because every Monday we also post this podcast here. But we also put it on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Anchor. And we do that every Monday. And then every Friday we post a video on YouTube. So to recap, every Monday we have a podcast, which is out around 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning in whatever time zone the UK is in. So it's ready for your morning commute. Once this COVID thing ends and people return to their regular morning commute, you can listen to this on set commute, or you can just vibe to it at home on Monday mornings. And then, like I said before, on Fridays, we post videos in the evening. So, and the goal for the Bluprint, not the Blueprint, but the Bluprint. And our goal here at the Bluprint is honestly, it's to create content that's valuable to the viewers and to the listeners. And boy, is that hard sometimes. That's really hard because all the stuff that we've learned and all the stuff our guests and friends and families and acquaintances have learned, it's stuff that's taken years to learn and knowledge that's taken years to accumulate. So when you do those things and create habits out of them, it just sort of becomes instinct, and it can be very challenging and difficult to bring that back and sort of explain it in a way that's palatable and understandable and valuable for the listeners and the viewers. So it's really hard to do this Bluprint thing where we actually create some sort of value every week, but it's so much fun. And we want to thank everyone who's joined us, and hopefully you guys and girls have learned a lot because I know for a fact that we've learned a lot. But it's like that one, like if you go back to like high school or even if you've been to university, it's like that one teacher, you just know that he or she was like, they're super smart. You know, they were just top of their class, super successful, but they just suck as teachers. And sometimes that's what I feel like here. I've actually been a teacher. I've taught informatics before at a business college, a business high school, business-oriented high school, I would say. And I know how challenging it is to gather your experience and your expertise and present it to someone who may not know everything about it, and even present it to someone who maybe knows more than you about it. But it's a struggle that you learn so much from. But today I do have a topic that I find interesting. And it'll be a short episode, but we can expand on the topic on another time. And then next week, hopefully we can go back to dropping these hour-long episodes with great guests and great topics where we can create some sort of discussion. But for today, it's just going to be me. I'm going to be talking about value creation in competitive markets. Value creation in competitive markets. How do we create value for our clients when there's so much competition in the market that we're in? And honestly, most markets have crazy competition. You're going to struggle to find a market that doesn't have any competitors. So this is going to be applicable for so many companies and businesses and people on every level. And the reason why I think it's a good topic is that even though creating value is obviously something you need to do and something you probably know you have to do, I wanted to talk about it because even though you may know it, implementing value creation as a core value in your business is very difficult. It's very difficult because it means you have to view your business from a different perspective that most people and businesses, and that includes myself to some extent, they're not used to. So I want to talk to you guys and gals about a value proposition model rooted in marketing and branding. I don't know why I said marketing and branding. And some of you are maybe even aware of this model, but I'm going to explain it anyway. And then I want to try to shortly tie it back to our creative industries to see how we can implement this theory that I'm going to explain into our core values and thereby create value in a competitive market. So a few years ago, I stumbled upon this author called Simon Sinek, and I looked him up on YouTube. I've bought his book. I know about one of his books, and I know of other books that he's written. And he presented this model called the Golden Circle model at a TED Talk about 11 years ago, and it's maybe one of the most popular TED Talks ever. And I don't remember how many views it's got, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the most popular TED Talks ever. And this model, the Golden Circle model, it's an attempt to explain why some organizations are able to inspire others and differentiate themselves, whereas others aren't able to achieve that. So it's basically like an onion with 3 layers. That's what the model is. It's 3 circles. The outside layer is what, the middle layer is how, and the inside layer is why. And those are questions organizations can answer to bring in customers to their business. So why is in the center of, like I said before, how is the next layer, and what is the outside layer? So his theory basically claims that organizations answer these questions from the outside in, when in reality they should actually answer them from the inside out. So what they usually do is what, how, why, when they should be doing why, how, and what. I'm going to explain what all of this means, and I'm going to use practical examples so you guys aren't as confused as I suspect some of you may be from just listening to words such as why, how, and what. But what does it mean? So what we want to answer first, what according to his theory is we want to start inside with why, then move to how, and then move to what. So we say, why do we do what we do? How do we do what we do? And what do we do? And he believes that most organizations do it the other way around. So I want to use this as an example with the Bluprint, the brand of the Bluprint. I want to start with the quote unquote wrong way, and then I want to end it with according to him, the right way. So for the wrong way, we're going to talk about what we do and how we do it, and we're not going to think about why we do things so much. And you could even add a why, but because it comes at the end, it's not going to be very inspiring. So let me give you an example. What does the Bluprint do? We make videos and podcasts on a weekly basis. How does the Bluprint do it? We create content online centered around the creative industry with special guests with big name clients, and then we use our own experience to give tips and tricks on how to achieve your goals. Want to check us out? Like, that's not super inspiring because there's no value-based purpose behind our business. People can't see themselves in our values. We're basically just like every other online brand who posts on YouTube and makes podcasts. And as you may know, there are like so many of those. So what if we tried Simon Sinek's tip and went from the inside out instead? We start with why, and then we do how, and then we do what. And that will sound something like this. We believe that everyone deserves access to valuable knowledge, and we believe that we can inspire our contemporaries to follow their dreams with confidence and with the right tools, and to change their lives. The way that we do it is by combining our experiences with those who are fully established in the industry and boil it down to tangible assets you can use. We just happen to do it through YouTube videos and podcasting. Want to join us? Now that's way more inspiring. That will like light a fire under someone, and that will probably have a bigger impact than that first sales pitch that neglected the why in the equation. Because people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. I'm going to say that again. Simon Sinek keeps saying this in his TED Talk, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. All right, I want to read our why again so you guys can extract the values in those 3 lines. We believe that everyone deserves access to valuable knowledge. And we believe that we can inspire our contemporaries to follow their dreams with confidence, with the right tools, and to change their lives. How we do it? Well, we combine experiences with other people's experiences, and we boil it down to tangible assets and tools that you can use. What do we do? Well, we make YouTube videos and podcasting, but that's not important. What's important is why we're doing it. That's way more appealing. It's way more appealing. And he even claims that that is rooted in biology, not psychology. He says that the brain, if you take a cross section of the brain and look from the, if you look downwards, cut the brain and look downwards, you can see that it corresponds to what the golden circle model looks like. We have 3 major areas of our brain that deals with different things. So we have our outside brain, which is where what is processed. What do we do? That's our rational brain, the analytical brain. And then we have the how and the why, and that triggers the limbic brain, or as some marketers call it, the emotional brain, the instinctual brain. And that's the part of the brain that handles our feelings, like trust and loyalty. And there's 2 things that are absolutely essential and crucial in attracting and keeping clients. And it's responsible for decision making. I want to give you a great example of how you can manipulate your business or your idea so that it appeals to the emotional brain, and how that really impacts the outcome. So I want to give you guys an example. 2 years ago, I was in a meeting with this guy who had a company, and the company handles branding, the branding aspect of businesses. So clients come to him and he sits down with them and he helps them define their identity, and through that helps them strengthen their brand. So they don't do actual ads, they don't do video, and they don't pitch ideas, they don't create the videos or the graphic design. No, they just deal with branding and defining that alone. So what this guy specifically dealt with was neuromarketing, which is, I guess in simple terms, is just targeting your brand so they appeal to the limbic or emotional brain. Because like I said before, that's the part of the brain that handles and deals with decision making. And in a marketing context, in a branding context, you want to affect that part of the brain, because that part of the brain is going to make the decision whether or not to pick your brand. So if you can affect that part of the brain, you have a competitive advantage. So on to the example. He showed me an example of a place. It was on a highway where they had a lot of car accidents. I think it was in Brazil, but I don't actually remember exactly where it was in the world. But there was a highway with a lot of car accidents. I guess in the UK you guys call it motorway. But so the local authorities, they've tried like so many different things to prevent this from happening. They've done signs and reminders and news, posters, all of those things, but they kept getting a really high number of accidents on this. It was like a turn, like a sharp turn, not like a 90-degree turn, but like a sharp turn that created a lot of accidents. So the reason was that the turn was so sharp that people didn't have the time to process that they had to slow down before it was too late. So that's why they kept having these accidents. And they can't just rebuild the road. Like, that's going to take too long. They're going to close down a major highway. So what they did was they hired people who understood decision making from a biological standpoint. They hired people who understood decision making from a biological standpoint. So you guys want to know the solution? It's a really simple solution, but it's so smart when you think about it. They painted horizontal lines on the highway. So they I'm just going to give an estimate, a guess of what it was. So there's like a line, a horizontal line, and then 3 meters ahead, another line, 3 meters ahead, another line. And then what they did was they created these horizontal lines on the highway that progressively had shorter and shorter distance between them. So maybe at first they had 5 meters. And then once you move forward a little bit, they have 3 meters in between the lines. And then 2, and then 1, and then 50 centimeters. And then it's like it goes on. And the accidents plummeted. So they just painted horizontal lines on the highway with shorter and shorter distance between them the closer you got to the sharp turn. So why does that solve the problem of accidents? And it's really smart, but super simple, but it's so smart. It's because when the driver's subconscious notices that he or she passes a line faster than he did before, it automatically tells them that they're driving faster than before, even if they haven't changed the speed at which they were driving. So they slow down. So let's say they go 100 kilometers an hour. First, they drive by the lines that have 5 meters in between them. And then the ones with 3, and then the 2, and then the 1. Throughout this whole cycle, they haven't changed their speed. But because there's shorter and shorter distance between the lines, their brain thinks that they're driving faster, that they're speeding. So what does that lead to? Like, you create an illusion where it feels like they're speeding and they're not. But the result is that they're slowing down. And it worked because they targeted the area of the brain that's responsible for decision making. All the failed attempts, signs and reminders and going into the news and putting posters up, etc., all of that appeals to the rational part of the brain. The rational part of the brain is not responsible for decision making. And that's why it didn't work. But what worked was appealing to the part of the brain, the subconscious part of the brain that deals with decision making. So a business that neglects this aspect of human biology, they're essentially peeing in headwind. That's such a Danish term, peeing in headwind. Like you're peeing in the opposite direction of the wind, which essentially means you're peeing on yourself. That's such a Danish term, but it's such a good term. Because it means you're fighting against yourself, like you're peeing on yourself. You're not doing yourself any favors. They're creating damage to themselves by neglecting the decision-making process in human biology. So, I want to tie this back to how you can use it for value creation in a creative industry. So this is not just, I don't want to just talk about Simon Sinek's theories or even the meeting I was in. I don't want to talk about neural marketing if I can't tie it back to how to actually apply it in your business. So let's tie it back to how you can use it. But before we do that, we need to talk about the creative industry in total. The creative industry is extremely oversaturated, if we're being honest. I don't think I can think of another industry that is as oversaturated as the creative industry. How easily accessible cameras and video recorders and computers and software to create graphic design and access to tutorials and tips and tricks. It's so easily, it's an area that's so easily accessible that there are so many people who are doing it. I think the invention of Instagram and the evolution of social media has just, it's completely exploded. Everyone's a photographer. Or if everyone isn't a photographer, you at least know someone who is. Everyone's a graphic designer. And if you aren't a graphic designer, you know at least one who is a graphic designer. And so on and so forth. Like you know someone who paints, or you know someone who does something in a creative industry. They make their own clothes. They have their own clothing brand. They're painters. They're dancers. Whatever the case may be, you know at least one person who is in the creative industry. And you know them who are freelancing, working full time, or even just as a hobby. And the fact that the market is so oversaturated at this point is probably your biggest weakness. It's probably your biggest weakness. But if you implement some simple tips, it may turn into a strength that the market is oversaturated. So I want to ask some questions. How many times have you been in a meeting with a client who tells you that your price is too high and they can get it done cheaper? I just want you to think about that for 5 seconds. I'm going to repeat it and then I'm going to be quiet for 5 seconds. How many times have you been in a meeting with a client who tells you that your price is too high and they know someone who can get it done cheaper? Think about that for 5 seconds. So I know I've tried it a lot of times. I've been in so many meetings with clients or phone calls with clients, or I've texted back and forth with clients, and the amount of times I've heard, that's too expensive. Last time I did it, I got it done for ABC, or last time I did it, I got it done cheaper. I know someone who could do it cheaper. How many times have you experienced that? Sometimes the counter offer is so low that I feel disrespected. But sometimes my initial offer that I send to a client, that offends them as well because it's way higher than they expected. So I'm not going to conclude anything. What I will do is I want to ask you some questions. Are you experiencing these things, these types of clients, because all you are to them is a what and a how? What as in you create logos, how as in through graphic design, but you don't have a why? Is it because there's no alignment of core values? Because you're not appealing to their emotional brain that deals with decision making? That you're only appealing to the rational brain that deals with the analytical and rational stuff? Well, if that's the case, then you are replaceable in every aspect. Like I said before, the market is oversaturated. Why should I pick you, a videographer, for $12,000 for my project when I know someone can and will do it for $5,000, for less than half, or even lower than $5,000? Why should I pick you? Or if the market price for something is $5,000, why should I pay you $7,000 when I'm aware that the market price is lower? After all, you're just a what and a how. You're replaceable because you're just like everyone else. And then it doesn't matter that you spend 2 hours extra than your competitors, or that you prepare better, or you have better equipment. No, none of that matters. Because to the client, you are like every other person in that industry. So when the markets are oversaturated, people try to differentiate themselves on price. Hey, if I want to enter this market, I got to sell at a low price because that's my only way in. I don't know how many times I've heard that before. My only way into this industry is through price. Is that true though? The market is just so saturated that the only way they try to differentiate themselves is on price. How many people do you know about or have you seen who start a clothing brand and they sell it for super cheap? Or the other way around. You know, people who sell their clothing brand for so much money, so expensive compared to their competitors, but it just doesn't appeal to anyone. They don't sell. It's because they have a what and a how. They create clothing by spending a lot of time on their design and using the best fabrics. Well, I don't care about that. I can get that somewhere else, probably for cheaper, or something with a similar design from maybe a more established brand. Why should I pick you? But generally speaking, when the market is oversaturated, price is the one thing that people try to use to enter a market. And it's hard to raise your prices because price helps you attract a certain target group. And raising your prices to whatever it is you really wanted it to be essentially means that you're waving goodbye to your current target group and you're looking for a new one. And that means you're starting all over. That's my analysis of it, at least. But eventually, so many people will try to differentiate themselves on price. And it'll happen so many times that it's no longer profitable or sustainable for you to make a living off of this creative work that you're doing. Like at some point, so many people are just trying to do it cheaper than the next person. And then the market price just keeps lowering and lowering itself. So you can differentiate yourself on price, but what about value-based differentiation? What about instead of arguing about price, you make sure that everyone in the room knows why you were doing what you were doing first? Why don't you make sure that the reason why you are in the room is because they know why you're doing what you're doing? We believe in working with people who strive to impact the world and make a change for the better. And we do that by only partnering with businesses who we believe have the willpower and the drive to change the status quo. We just happen to do it through making logos and posters. And that's powerful. Imagine you're a business and you hire someone to make logos. You hire two people to make logos. And one of them says, yeah, we can make logos. We spend like so much time on it. We've had this client, that client. We have 20 years of experience in making logos. I'm just using logos. You could replace it with anything else. That's your first option as a business. Now you bring in the second option. You have to hire one of these people, and the second person says, "We believe in working with people who strive to impact the world and make a change for the better. We do that by partnering with businesses who have the willpower and the drive to change the status quo. We want to do that through logos and posters." Now, as a business, if I feel like my goal is to impact the world and to make a change for the better. And the company or the creative person sitting across me only partners up with businesses who have the willpower and the drive to chase this purpose. Well, who am I going to pick then? If my values are exactly the same as the person's or the company's value that I'm about to hire, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So of course, creating value will, of course it means that you need to provide quality products. Like you can't sell something regardless of the price. It could be the cheapest on the market or it could be the most expensive on the market. But if it's not high quality products, obviously they're not going to be satisfied for you. But that's not why they choose you to begin with. And not 500 other people lining up to take your job. That's not why they chose you. Obviously, work speaks for itself, but your values appeals to the emotional brain, which is where people make their decisions. So if a person is exposed to two people, one of them only appeals to their rational brain and the other appeals to their emotional brain, chances are they're going to go with their instincts, the gut feeling as they call it, which is a response created by the limbic brain, the emotional brain. And they're going to pick the person who appeals to the emotional brain. So they don't pick you because of what you do. They pick you because of why you do it. Because you create value through your values. You create value through your values. You define why you're even doing this in the first place. Bill Gates didn't pursue coding with Paul Allen because they knew they'd be billionaires. Maybe there's an aspect to it. They didn't do it because it was the cool thing to do. If you watched the documentary Inside of Bill's Brain on Netflix, it's very clear that at least Bill understood that they can change the world through code. And they did. So why are you doing what you're doing? Is there a purpose behind your actions? Have you even reflected on why you started practicing and perfecting your skills? Like why? Why do you stay up at night trying to edit a video or a picture? Or why do you go out in the cold and take pictures after you've had 15 consecutive days of bad shoots? Why do you go out on the 16th day? Have you even considered that? Hopefully these are some tools that you and I can ponder over and then maybe implement and eventually help ourselves to strengthen our business through creating value in a highly competitive market, in a highly oversaturated market. So we're just going to wrap this episode up for now. If you like this episode, let us know. We do appreciate it when people reach out to us and lets us know what they liked and what they didn't like. We like to listen to suggestions. You can reach out to me personally on Instagram at raymond.roots. Or you can reach out to us on the Bluprint page. On Instagram, it's at the Bluprint IG. Bluprint is spelled BLUPRINT. Or you can go to Muhammad Imam. You can message him on Instagram at mi_visuals. We'd like to hear from you. We want to know if we're actually creating value that you enjoy. Are you actually using this? Have you learned something from it? Because I know I learned a lot from just preparing. But it's important to me that we provide something that people find valuable, people find knowledgeable and inspiring. But like I said, if you enjoy this episode, let us know. But also let your friends and your family and your acquaintances know. Because at the end of the day, we're only going to grow by creating value. So if you feel like someone will find value in what we do, let them know. We drop podcast episodes every Monday. And We drop videos every Friday. So yeah, of course, if you enjoyed this episode, please share this with a friend or a family member or an acquaintance. And until next time, stay safe in these crazy COVID times. Stay productive, stay creative, and of course, stay happy. Talk to you next week. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Bluprint Pod. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tell a friend and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.